All right, well, this morning I got up kind of early and I went hunting. But not the kind of hunting you're probably thinking of. I went after a flip machine, something to buy and fix and sell, and I found it. 1998, I think, or 99. Let's see here. 1998 TRX 450 ES. Now this was the big one. This was the 450 class, full-time four-wheel drive. I gotta say, it's not as heavy-handed steering as you would think. If you've never driven one of these with full-time four-wheel drive, it's not the straight axle that they started with. It's independent front suspension. It's full-time four-wheel drive. If you can find one, this is what you want to look for. This is it. It's a heavy machine, but it is a powerful machine. It's got tons of torque. Low down, it will just pull. Found this one, second owner. Look at it, y'all. Look at the rack. Look how straight those racks are. Isn't that crazy? Yep. Original toolkit and shifter right there. That's the emergency shifter, which is exactly how we were able to pick this one up. That's what's wrong with this machine. It is not shifting into neutral. It shifts one all the way up through all the gears perfectly. It will shift from neutral to reverse perfectly. No problems whatsoever. It's not a transmission problem. I think it's a clutch problem. I think it's similar to the 350 TW that we had in here a couple months ago. And here's why I say that. So one of those things that wasn't divulged until I got to the seller's house, that all of a sudden it had a transmission problem. But you know, we roll the dice. It's hunting. It's not a guarantee every time you go out in the woods. So what we have here is, just as I explained, it would not shift from first to neutral. The other issue that was very subtle, easily overlooked, and I believe that's what the seller was overlooking, was when you would come to a stop in first gear, your machine should not creep. It should not try to pull at an idle. If your machine is idling at the proper RPM, which is around 900 RPMs, you know, plus every machine's a little different. Let's just go with that. About 900 RPMs is idle on these machines. If you come to a stop and you're in first gear, you're not giving any gas and any accelerator, it should just sit there and just idle and not move and just wait for you to give it gas. That's the clutch not engaging. It has a centrifugal clutch in it. If you are sitting at idle and your machine is trying to pull, one of two things is going on here. One, your idle may be too high. Not the case on this one. Two, the clutch is out of adjustment and it's grabbing and it's trying to pull because it's too tight. It's too much tension on the clutch plates. That's what I think the problem is with this one. This machine, when we walk out to it, I get to the guy's house, I put my hand on the exhaust, I turn the key, I give it just a little bit of choke. It fires right up. Look at that. Now that idle might be just a skosh high. But the choke's on. I think the idle is just a little too high. And I think that and a clutch adjustment is all we're really going to need on this machine. I mean, it just fires right up. It runs so good. All the lights work. The tail lights, all three headlights. It comes with a gun rack. Look at that. Puts a gun on there. It comes with even a little strappy dude. I don't know what that's for, but we got one. It's the accessory plug. I mean, this thing's loaded out. We do got our typical seat problem. You've seen me fix this before. On the pink Recon 250 ES, I believe it was. Same problem. These seat covers, they shrink with age, and they get really kind of brittle. Really, they're not very pliable. The foam is still here, which is really good. It goes all the way up to the plastic, which is right there. A lot of times this top edge gets worn off from people just still riding it. That's not the case here. It is worn some, but the edge is there. We're going to trim this edge up. We're going to put a seat cover on here. It's going to look nice. We got missing a few little pins. We've got one pin missing here. There's one here on the back. These are real trivial, guys, real trivial, but the little things add up, okay? We got both side covers. This cover, just like the big reds, this one's always missing. This is how you access your pull cable or your pull cord. Look at that. That thing's so dirty, it ain't never been used. Just sitting there on the ready. A couple other things, we don't have any front brakes, very common. Could be master cylinder, that's a cheap fix. Could be wheel cylinders, not a cheap fix. Hopefully what we'll do is we're gonna check the fluid level. We may put a lever on it or a new master cylinder, and let's see, let's hope that the front brakes is not the wheel cylinders. Those wheel cylinders are about $45 a piece, if I'm not mistaken. I think there's 4 up there, 2 on each side. You can get those from Honda, so that is a Honda part you could go back for. These racks, look how great these racks are. They're just straight as they can be. You know what I mean? I mean, that's what you want. Full-time four-wheel drive, not a lot to break. It works. It's just a very simple system. Seller, older fella, that's who y'all want to look for. Used to carry his dog back here. This is a little plastic tray. I feel bad for the dog having to sit on that, but you know, not my dog. It's not Chloe. Chloe would not tolerate that. Chloe would want a piece of carpet there. But I get it. The carpet would get wet and then it would, you know, be a mess. But look underneath. Underneath is very well protected. I looked at it at the seller's house. It's going to come off and really no real damage. You got shot some screws in it, but you know, mostly zip ties. So where are we at on this one? Master cylinder, seat. Maybe wheel cylinders, let's hope not. We're gonna turn the idle down. We're gonna adjust the clutch. And if that doesn't fix it, pulling through first gear, then our fallback on this particular machine is you can buy a shifter that goes here on this little shift rod to make this a permanently foot shift. That's an option. I don't wanna go there, but that's an option. And the reason I'm not jumping into position sensors and I'm not jumping into the shift motor and the shift gears is because it shifts flawlessly except for the 1 to neutral shift. And so that being said, we're going to look at the sensor, but I think what we're going to find is the clutch is out of adjustment because it's wanting to walk or pull through at idle. We do have a little carb leak. It's nothing big. It will put a little spot on the floor. It did that on the trailer on the way home. Just turn the fuel off. There you go. Interesting, you pulled all the placards off. You know, it's funny what some people do to machines over the years. I don't, you know, what was the mindset? Let's pull all the placards off. Interesting. Just didn't like them, I guess. Didn't like being told what to do. So this machine was advertised. Now guys, this is not what I do for a living, but it is a full-time job looking for machines like this. Low hour maybe, one owner maybe, good machines that are well taken care of. Not, there's no snorkel, guys. I'm telling you, look, no holes in the plastic. There's no snorkel been on this machine. It doesn't have the big mud tires. These, I'm pretty sure, original set of Dunlops, right there. Original set of Dunlop, and I'm surprised that the back ones were up. These I do not think, somebody can correct me, these are Titans. I don't think that's an original front tire. But they, you know, they could be. If those are original tires, that's another winner right there now. That is a lot of machine right there. All right, well, I'm gonna put it up on the lift. We're gonna adjust the clutch, and we're gonna adjust the idle. And then we're going to take it back out for a little spin in this video and see where we are. Go to Marketplace and look for Honda stocks. I know that sounds strange, but what that's in referencing to is younger people generally are buying these 420s and 500s. They're jacking them up right as soon as they get them. They're putting the big aggressive tires on them. They take the stock wheels and they stick them over in the corner. They put them on the market, and they put them on the market to get them out of the way cheap. I've bought 2 sets of stock takeoff wheels. I spent $150 on one set and $100 on the other set. That's wheels, tires, and center caps, both of those deals. If you need tires and you're not looking to upsize or downsize, or even if you do want to upsize or downsize, you can look within different models. Let's say you've got a 420 and you want to put the bigger wheel on it, maybe a little bigger tire that comes stock on a 500. So you go look around and you find takeoffs off of a 500 that somebody's lifted or put bigger wheels and tires on. A lot of guys want to put the custom aluminum wheels on there, and that's great. They take off the stocks, you fly, you swoop in and pick them up cheap. Look at these fender flares. When's the last time you've seen one of these, a 350 or a 450, that the fender flares aren't brittle? Look at that. There's still plenty of flex in them. They're not broken. Not a single corner on these fender flares or chips. I have seen these get so dried out and brittle that you can just touch them with your finger and they will break and they'll pop. Look, every one of them is just as subtle and flexible as it can be. That to me is a huge, that's a sign of a machine that has been covered most of its life, which is always a good thing. These machines are great, but they got to be taken, you got to take care of them. So let me grab some tools. I'm going to set the camera down, and it's not a big job to set the idle on these. And let's adjust the clutch too. Just like our 350, our clutch adjustment is right here. Come in on the left side. This is a 14mm bolt with a flathead adjustment screw, we'll call it. I'm going to take that and I'm going to loosen it, and I'm going to back that adjustment out counterclockwise, probably a half a turn, and then I'm going to fire the machine up. We're going to put it in first gear, and if it tries to creep or walk, then we know that it needs to come out some more. If it doesn't, then we know we fixed it. Let me grab some tools. All right, I've loosened that up about a half a turn, and while I'm holding it with a flathead screwdriver, I'm going to try to go ahead and get the jam nut tight without the screw turning. So sometimes you just take your wrench and do like that. Hold the jam nut with the screwdriver and then tighten it. I'd film this better, but there's no room in here. All right. Easy enough. So here on the right side of the machine, you can see this little black knob right here. What I'm going to do is I'm going to just back that up about a half a turn. That's it. Let's see where that is on our how fast our idle is. Let's fire it up. We've got it back in neutral. Green light comes on. That sounds pretty good. I don't know how responsive this is. I'll pull it down a little bit. All right, I like that. I like them to idle low, and I can get them that way. So, got to be prepared to shut it off because brakes are still a little checky here. So let's see. Look at that. Now before, when I first got it, as soon as you put it into gear, it would try to walk. There, that's what you want. See how we have that play, even though it's in gear and running. Kind of a coast, if you call it that. That's what you want. Now let's see what happens when we try to put it in neutral. All right, let's back it out of here and see. Did we really fix it that easy? All right, we got reverse. All right, come to stop. Just let it roll. It stops like it should. Go into neutral. Go into first. That's great. First pulls, we let off, it rolls to a gentle stop. We go to reverse, or go to neutral, excuse me. It's fixed. Now before it would not do that. I may have the idle down just a little bit too low. I'm just setting it by ear. It should be smooth and consistent. All right, now with a little bit higher idle, let's make sure everything's still good. Let's go into reverse. The red light comes on. Coast. Let's go into first, go up. Electric shift, we have our neutral light. Let's go to first, which is where the problem was. That's great. That is great. Alright, we're going to roll it back in the shop. Put it under an odd load here, kind of on the hill. We're sitting half in and half out of the shop. We're going to go down and see. Now it's kind of in a bind, if you will. Let's see if we can go into neutral now. There you go. It's fixed. I love Hondas. Nice little stop. Okay. And that's it. And that was one of the few problems with this machine, but it was the biggest one. And that particular problem allowed me to get a better deal on this machine. It was a good price already. I get to the seller's house. I'll put this cover back on. All right, that's better. I always like to put that right back on just as soon as I can. So what happened is it already was on a good price. I found this actually on Craigslist, and just one of those things. About once a week I check Craigslist. Craigslist is not where the majority of machines are, but that doesn't mean you can't find good deals there. And so this machine was priced really good already. It was worth the drive. I ended up driving over an hour to get it early this morning. And the seller, and I'll just tell it like it is, the seller did not divulge the shifting problem. He divulged a leaky tire, he divulged a torn seat, and he divulged the no front brakes. So knowing that, I drove an hour and 15-20 minutes to get it. While on the test drive, I pull it back in, I put it into reverse. It's running great, it shifts great. I go to put it into reverse and it wouldn't go from first to neutral. We manually get it into neutral, we put it into reverse, we check reverse works, we go back into first, or neutral, we go back into first, and it wouldn't come out easily. But I noticed the idle was a little high, but the most important thing that I noticed is when I came to a stop, but left it in first gear, and it kept wanting to creep, it kept wanting to crawl. And because it didn't have very good brakes, it was like, hey, I need to stop this thing, you know? And so you start reaching for levers and pedals and stuff, and we finally get it stopped. That told me something was going on with it. Why was it continually to creep? It should sit completely still at idle. Because it ran so smooth and started so good, I really felt that it was just a high idle. But I think this was probably more that clutch had a little bit too much pressure on it, a little too much tension, and that's what was causing this one to creep. I don't think that 300 or 400 RPMs we adjusted it made that big a difference. But that's it. That's wow. Taking your time. You can't do this every week. Taking your time, looking through all of the machines available and doing your homework. Knowing some of these problems that some of these machines end up developing helps you become a better shopper. When you get there, you can go, hey, I've noticed this and this and this. Are you willing to buy it with those problems? Are you willing to negotiate, you know, a little harder because it has problems? Maybe this isn't the machine for you. This was a home run if you knew those two things. If you knew the idle was a little too high and you knew that a maladjusted clutch would cause it to creep through neutral. Other than that, what more can you say? I'm gonna pop the fluid here on the reservoir, and let's get our JIS screwdriver. Let's check and see if we've got any brake fluid in here. And like I suspected, see this rubber diaphragm here? See how it's sucked in all the way down low? No, not that I suspected, I hoped. Look at that. There's no fluid in the master cylinder. Now, the seller told me he doesn't drive this thing very much, but we've all heard that story before. We don't drive it, it sits, you know. You gotta take that stuff with a grain of salt. But the man sounded believable. I want to believe everything a seller tells me. I really do. It's my nature. If you tell me something, I want to believe it, and because I want to think the best of the people that I interact with. But there are people out there that you can't believe everything they say, and especially in business. We're not talking, you know, this is several, you know, $100 here. Unfortunately, there are people in this world you just can't trust like that. So anytime somebody tells you something, you need to be mindful that it's a possibility that it could be an exaggeration of the truth. It could just be a bold-faced lie too. So this gentleman told me he didn't drive this machine very often. It shows that. That fluid is terrible. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna suck this fluid out, and we're just gonna top it off with some fresh, just to see if we can build up any pressure at all. If we can, great. We'll drain it and we'll fill it with some all new fluid. If we don't build any pressure at all, then we probably do have a bad master cylinder, or possibly wheel cylinders that are just not pumping up. So I'm just trying to, there's a little bit of crud here in the corner. I'm working with one hand today instead of my normal tripod to try to get y'all a little closer to the action. Just got some standard old .3 brake fluid here. Here's a little trick. This is the old timer thing. When you get a new bottle of fluid, put a pour hole on one side of this foil and put an air hole on the other side. Pour out of the larger. The air comes out of here and it won't make that gulp pour. It just pours out nice and even. See how it does that? All right. Now when you're bleeding out a master cylinder, watch for those air bubbles. This has got a sticky spot in it. See that? I'm really trying here. No, it's not pumping up. And no air, and you don't see any bubbles coming out of it either. So I'm gonna say, because it's not making fluid, the safe bet here is probably the master cylinder is bad. Here, this being the master cylinder is bad because it's not creating any type of pressure. So we'll put all this back together like it was when we took it apart. Try not to make a big mess now because I probably put too much fluid in it. Working one-handed is a little more difficult, especially if it's your left hand. All right, so tonight my homework is I'm gonna go order a seat cover, and I'm gonna look really hard for a set of stock wheels and tires to go on this thing. Again, it's personal preference for me. I look at tires, I look at the seat. If they're wore out, I kind of figure the rest of the machine's the same way. This master cylinder I don't know, we will see. They're not that expensive. I think they're around $30 or $40 for an actual Honda one. You can get the aftermarket ones, they're about $17. Biggest thing about a master cylinder, make sure your output, this one comes out the front of the master cylinder. A lot of them come out the side. And you go, oh, what's the big deal? Well, the big deal is this hose has kind of got a pre-made bend to it. And if you have to turn it to come in here, it's going to be in a bind. If you get one, and it's not a Honda one, be sure your output comes out the front. As for where the sight glass is, this sight glass is in the front. Some of the sight glasses in the aftermarket ones are on the back, or vice versa. You know, that's not a big deal. But where this output is a big deal. Yeah, we're not building any brakes there, but this machine has good rear brakes on this side, and the foot brake here is really stiff and kind of sticks. And what that is it's just rusted down here, and it's gotten it needs to be cleaned and lubricated, but they do work. The rear brakes work well. Just see how that pedal doesn't come back up. You kind of have to pick it back up like that. So that's an easy fix as well. There is a spring back here. That spring could be missing, we don't know. Again, you watched me bring it right off the trailer. I've owned it 10 minutes, or at least it's been here 10 minutes. That's great. Tips, things to look for, things that I think are important when you're looking for a four-wheeler. How straight are the racks? Do all the lights work? If it's four-wheel drive, when you drive it, you need to drive it slow, turn it all the way to the left, turn it all the way to the right. Listen for any clicking noise, and you'll hear it's the CV axles. If you hear that, you plan on replacing the CV axle. This is the only fix, is the CV axle. CV axles on this machine, I think they're about 150 for the pair. You have to look up, every machine's a little different. The last ones I bought, I think they were 150 for both sides, left and right. Look at these guards. See these plastic guards? These are plastic. Now that's heavy duty plastic, but they're not broken. Look, they're all in place. Nobody's tried to take them off. They haven't been filled up with you know, mud and rocks and sticks and stuff. This machine made no noises. We just went for a ride. It didn't click, it didn't bang, it didn't pop. when these front differentials go out, the ring and pinion, just like a car or truck today, they start getting in binds and they start popping and snapping and making weird funky noises, and you'll feel it all the way through the machine. Always watch for that in a four-wheel drive system. If you're going to look at a four-wheel drive system that has a part-time four-wheel drive, drive it in four-wheel drive and check it out. I mean, that's what you're paying for. A four-wheel drive four-wheeler on average will run you almost double in an older model like this. So it's a big deal. So you're paying for it, you need to check it out. We've already covered how important I think having these covers are, and how, because they're hard to find. They really are, and they're expensive if you do find them. How straight your racks are, how even is the paint. Remember, we haven't washed this. This is exactly how I bought it, right off the trailer. We do have a little fuel leak. It's an overflow, which means what? It means our float is sticking a little bit, and it's just allowing fuel to go right through the carburetor, right onto the ground. But it's a very, very, very small leak. Again, this machine, he says he only drives it, you know, not that often. It could be one of those things, just a good tank of fuel run through it, and you know, would work out a lot of the bugs. Not always, but sometimes that does happen because it's not straight, just flowing right to the floor. It's kind of a weeping problem. And so, you know, take that for what it is. You pull the carb, clean it, new gasket, rebuild kit, put that back in there. That would fix that. It really depends on how far you want to go with a machine like this. If I was keeping this one, and if my lifestyle afforded me more time to use it, to go in the woods and go through mud and jump over trees and that kind of stuff, man, that's one to keep right there. A seat and tires, and this thing is happy. Happy. All the lights work. I just can't get over it. Now the dash is hard to read. You can read it, but just a little bit here. All this yellow is busted, or not busted, but it's faded out. All the lights work. Choke works. Everything works. I don't know what to tell you other than be diligent. Look every day. Look when you get up in the morning. Look when you go to bed. I've told you in the past that weekends, Thursday and Friday nights are the best nights to post, which also means it's the best nights to look. If you know you don't want to look all the time, that's fine. But I encourage you to look Thursday and Friday nights. Be ready for the weekend. Have cash in your pocket, and you too can find another great Honda just like this one. Okay, well that's about wraps this up. I wish I had a seat cover. We'll do a seat upholster on this. We've done those in the past. We'll probably do this one. I'd like to show you the machines finished before I get rid of them. Sometimes that just doesn't work out. I'd hate to make a video like, here's me bolting on some tires, you know. Y'all can do that. Y'all don't need to see a video on that. But otherwise that would require me to shoot these videos over weeks and then compile them and then let them post late. And so I don't really work like that. I kind of I'll go make this video tonight. You'll be seeing it tomorrow, and I will have owned this machine for less than 24 hours. So that's how fast I turn the finding, hopefully the fixing if I can, building of the video, editing the video, and then posting it to you guys on Sunday or Monday. But that's it. That's a tank. This is the second or third 450 I have had, and they are some powerhouse. They're not fast, and brakes are always a little on the iffy side. But if you've got property and you want to pull a tree or a dead car or work, you're not going to find a better utility machine than the 450. I don't have any experience with the newer fuel injected machines. Y'all know I like the old stuff. This machine's 26 years old, and there's no reason why it can't last. I mean, if you take care of these and don't, you know, abuse them, they could last you forever. They really can. When, you know, when the world comes to an end, there's going to be two things left running on this earth: roaches and Hondas.